The date is October 13th, 2019. The then known NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series is at the Talladega Superspeedway for the second race in the round of 12. Talladega has always been a wildcard racetrack for years, but the anticipation for this year's playoff race was sky high, not only for the new engine package that allowed the cars to run faster and more exciting racing, but in the opening pace laps, we would get to see a tribute that would leave fans teary-eyed and emotional. Watching Dale Earnhardt's car parade around once again at the Talladega Superspeedway really set the tone for the race that we were about to see. There was something special about this Talladega race. This was the second race at Talladega since NASCAR decided to remove the restrictor plates off the cars. The spring race at Talladega was definitely one to remember, and now you add in the playoffs, and you were setting up for a historical race.
Up through the gears they go. We're racing at Talladega Superspeedway.
Wow. And we got a lot of Fords there behind them. Will they organize a pack like this all weekend long? They don't know if this outside's going to work well or not. Right now, it seems to be working pretty well.
They're teaming up. Ford's on the outside. There's a Chevrolet tucked in there as well with Kyle Larson. But right now, here they come. You see the manufacturers. 18 of them are Chevrolets, 15 Fords, and 7 Toyotas in the Fords.
One other element that was pushing the intensity of this race, aside from the package, was the threat of rain. Early on in Stage 1, it was evident that rain was going to hit the track, and although the race wouldn't be deemed official, it was still important for drivers to get up there and get stage points before the end of the stage and before the rain came. Early on, we would see cars getting 3 wide and getting massive runs on each other. The cars were consistently going 200 miles an hour or faster, even all the way back to the cars that are considered also-rans in the high 30s and even 40th place. This package on this track really proved that anyone can win it, and that's why drivers were making the moves that they were making even early on during this race. Another unique thing about this new package was the size of the rear spoiler, which Dale Jr. humorously pointed out during the race in the first stage.
Yeah, you want to be able to trust your spotter to paint the picture of what's happening behind you, so you don't have to look back there that much. Plus, with these giant-ass spoilers, they can't really see much anyway, so it's kind of tough to be able to get that kind of...
Unfortunately for Ryan Blaney, the giant-ass spoiler wouldn't prevent him from spinning out entering pit road. He would lock up his brakes and spin out into the infield grass. A caution would not come out for this, but lucky for him, a few laps later during green flag pit stops, Spencer Boyd, who by the way had won the truck race earlier in the week, would be the first cause for caution as he would stall his car on the bottom of the racetrack. The rest of the first stage was pretty uneventful in the sense of cautions, but we did see some intense racing with multiple lines forming, and even at one point we saw the 2-car tandem have a breakaway at the front of the field with Brad Keselowski and Clint Bowyer. Eric Jones would cut a tire, but the race remained green as nobody was collected and he was able to keep going and make it to pit road. Coming into the tri-oval on the final lap of the first stage, we would see William Byron leading the field back to the green and white checkered flag. He would win the opening stage of this playoff race. And in a humorous way, the moment the cars finished the stage, the sky opened up and rain began to fall. Unfortunately, Talladega doesn't have lights, and it was already too late to try to get the rest of the race resumed in the same day. So we're going to have to pick this video up in the following day.
Couple cars jumping out of line. One of those being...
Following the resumption of the race, we immediately saw cars getting 3 wide on the opening lap following the restart. The fact that the drivers were attempting to make it 3 wide and even 4 wide early on after not being in the car for almost an entire day was remarkable to think about. Most of the second stage had great pack racing, but unfortunately the calmness in yesterday didn't carry over to today.
Use the brakes and their heads. Keep themselves out of trouble. That was a really late block from Chase Elliott. I think fortunate to get away with that.
How about Alex Bowman in the 88? He gets a shove. He's going to go sideways right in front of the pack. The 48 caught up, and the 9 is caught up. The caution has come out.
We would see the first big wreck of this race in the final few laps of the second stage. Because of the car's package and the ability of cars to get the massive runs and the insane closing rates, we saw Alex Bowman get shoved out, and then Joey Logano would close in at almost 10 miles an hour faster. Unfortunately, Alex Bowman attempted to make a block that he shouldn't have, which ended up taking himself and others out. One other driver that was taken out of this wreck was the 42 of Kyle Larson. Lucky for him, he had won the previous week at Dover and had already advanced into the next round. Also involved in this wreck was the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, who was having a great run up until this point. Although it looked like multiple cars were involved, only 3 cars had to retire from this race, and this was Alex Bowman, Jimmy Johnson, and Kyle Larson. Everyone else involved was able to continue on. Clint Bowyer would go on to win the stage. Now that we saw our first big crash of the race, most of the drivers would go single file for a handful of laps. Even though we were single file, another wreck would occur, this time involving Bubba Wallace and Blake Jones. The field retook the green flag, and once again it looked like the field was going to get single file, but a couple laps later the pack would break out to 3 and even 4 wide throughout the field. It was incredible to see this type of racing that was happening right in front of us, as the cars were able to go wherever they wanted and have these insane runs that brought them from the back to the front within a lap. Another caution would come out when Clint Bowyer would cut a tire and spin out in turns 3 and 4, high centering his car and not being able to move. The caution would set up a chain of events that was going to generate the wildest remaining laps in a Talladega race. Get your popcorn ready for this one. Once again, with less than 30 laps to go, all seem to be running well for the pack until...
Help each other.
Oh, and around goes a 22! A hard hit by Joey Logano!
We're in it, guys.
The 41! Logano was running in the 2nd position up there on that outside line.
Contact from the 1 of Kurt Busch would send the 24 of William Byron into Joey Logano, nearly flipping over his race car. The problem with this wreck was the front end of the Chevy was very unstable when trying to line up and bump draft. Once Kurt Busch hit William Byron, it got him out of shape, and he had no hope in saving his race car. This was the second big crash of the race, and it involved several playoff and non-playoff drivers. Again, I have to note how insane this package was, as we saw also-rans getting involved in this wreck, which was crazy to think about, as they were able to hang with the pack for this long and stay in the lead draft on the lead lap. You would never see that today. The fact that we saw the 66 and the 51 get involved in this wreck towards the front of the pack just speaks volume as to how well the racing was. The race would get back underway, and once again a few laps later another caution would occur, this time for the 41 of Daniel Suarez. He was involved in the previous wreck and still had significant damage that caused him to spin out in turn 3, bringing the field to another restart. The race got going again with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kurt Busch leading the field to the green flag, and the field would get single file, but then in less than half a lap, the field got to 2 wide, and then a lap later, we were 3 by 3 by 3, all the way back with less than 10 laps to go. We saw Kyle Busch get surged in the top lane to the lead, but unfortunately this type of racing can only last for so long.
Another hood flap flies off. Oh, around goes the 18! The 42 collects the 17 as well! The 62 upside down! Brendan Gaughan upside down as he went back in front of the pack.
An incredible wreck would occur right in front of our eyes as Kyle Busch would get loose from the middle lane and collect multiple cars that would also clip the rear end of Brendan Gaughan's car. The contact would send his car airborne, doing a full corkscrew maneuver in the air and landing back on its wheels. What's incredible to think about is how Brendan Gaughan, for a split second, was the race leader, once again proving how insane this package was. This flip I would consider just as wild as Elliott Sadler's flip, or even Scott Riggs' flip that occurred at this same track a decade before this flip. Although Brendan Gaughan didn't tumble, the fact that the car whipped around as fast as it did and went up in the air and did a rotation, then landed back on the wheels, was just spectacular. Multiple playoff and non-playoff drivers were involved in this wreck, and now we really had a thin field with less than 10 laps to go. Brendan Gaughan was okay, and after this crash, he gave us a pretty funny interview.
Oh, here we go. See, I don't even know what happened. I just know that Brad was pushing the crap out of me, and I loved it. Oh, that's Stenhouse. Go figure. Yeah, it stuck the landing. Russian judge docked me a little bit, and I didn't keep it straight.
So now I know what you might be thinking. Who's even left in this race? Well, the running order in the top 10 at the time had 5 drivers who were attempting to get their first career win, 3 drivers who had 2 career wins, and the driver with the most career wins inside the top 10 was Ryan Newman with 18, who had been winless for 2 years. The driver with the most wins still left in the field was Denny Hamlin, who had a destroyed front end that was taped up from the first wreck. This race quickly became a survival race with less than 30 laps to go. Now we were setting up for an epic finish that could come down to maybe seeing a first-time winner or a driver who needed to win to make the next round of the playoffs take home the W. On the final restart, we would see Eric Almirola and Ryan Blaney lead the field to the green flag. Eric Almirola was the defending winner of this race, having won in the prior year in one of the most boring races at Talladega. Now a year later, he had the opportunity to win one of the most exciting races. Ryan Blaney would clear the 10 and take the lead heading down the back straightaway. For most of the first lap after the restart, the field would remain calm and organized, but then heading into the final lap, all bets were off and it was every man for himself. I'm just going to let you guys enjoy the live broadcast of this finish because I don't think me talking over it truly shows how awesome it was.
Coming back on 1 to go, brought to you by Credit One.
Been a lot of questions about what position do you want to be in? Do you want to be leading or in second? I think you have to be leading. There's always a wreck with 1 to go, and then the race is over. So I think Blaney's got to be in this position.
Chase Elliott jumped out of line. That was likely his only opportunity, as he's going to get almost 3 wide there with the 13.
Tries to get help. He tries to get that help from Ty Dillon. Now everyone fighting for every position down the backstretch for the final time.
Ryan Newman, huge push from Hamlin.
Here comes Newman. Newman sideways.
He saved it. He saved it.
That's going to give that 12 car a chance to get another run, but Newman way out front. They're going to have a big run coming up on this 6 car down the front straightaway.
Huge block coming right here.
Blaney as they go around the 37, almost upside down. So's the 96, Parker Kligerman. Here they come. They make contact. They're side by side. It's a photo finish at the line.
And there you have it, one of the best finishes to cap off a spectacular Talladega race. We saw Ryan Newman get a push from the badly damaged Denny Hamlin, coming into the final corner, nearly spinning out, saving his race car, and then getting too far of a lead, which allowed Ryan Blaney to close in the tri-oval. Ryan Blaney faked the high move and then went low. They rubbed fenders and came to the line in a photo finish as cars were crashing behind them. This finish was just the icing on the cake for the 2 days of excitement that we saw in this race. The pack racing was incredible, the wrecks left you speechless, and of course, like every good plate race, there was the opportunity for somebody who didn't have a win in their career to maybe pulling off the upset. Although Ryan Blaney wasn't considered to be an upset, he had only 2 career wins up to this point, and this win secured him a spot in the next round of the playoffs. So let me know what you guys thought if you saw this race live, what were your reactions, and if this is your first time seeing this race, let me know what you think. I highly recommend that you go back and watch the entire race. It was very entertaining outside of the things that I highlighted in this video. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.